This is a native annual wildflower called a sicklepod. The Latin name is Senna obtusifolia. It's a host plant for several of our native butterflies, including the cloudless sulphur, the orange barred sulphur, and the sleepy orange. I had been trying to start these from seeds, but the squirrels kept digging them up, so I still don't have any that I started. And I was thrilled when I found these two volunteers in the backyard. I put some stakes around them to keep Mike the mower away from them. And they're looking super healthy and gorgeous. And all I had to do was ID them. I love plants like this. These grow to about 3 feet in height and just about as wide. They get little yellow flowers that droop down. The flowers aren't showy, but they do add some interest in the garden. Sicklepod grows in full sun to part shade, and it isn't picky about soil type. They'll grow in dry to moist soil or rich to sandy soil. Since it's an annual, it won't come back from the roots, but if you leave some seeds to drop near the original plant, you'll get seedlings the next season. I'm guessing a bird left their droppings here for me to have some new plants. This is another one for the butterfly garden because it's zero maintenance and it's a host plant for about 3 different butterflies. And if you learn to ID the volunteers, you'll have free plants that require zero maintenance. It's a win-win. So when you're looking for volunteers, remember to look for compound leaves. They're usually in 2 to 3 pairs. The base is usually smaller than the apex, which is the point or the end, and the apex is always rounded. Even when they're teeny tiny little seedlings. So if you learn how to ID these, you'll have some free butterfly plants. So here are a couple of sicklepod blooms. And on the lower right from that first yellow flower, there's a teeny tiny little green seed pod. It's pointed down, and that's what gives this plant its name, because it gets little sickle-shaped seed pods. They're recurved like the blade of a sickle. I just noticed this sicklepod volunteer the other day, and I had walked past it dozens of times and never noticed until it got a little bit taller than the surrounding vegetation. So it pays to be on the lookout throughout your green space for volunteers in all sorts of places you might not think to find them. Or they may be right in front of you and you don't notice them until they get to be a certain height. Well, I wanted to show you guys the Sicklepod. It has doubled in size, and it's starting to put out a lot of flowers and a lot of seed pods. So I feel so blessed that I found these volunteers. Here are some of the flowers. It's got some type of a sulphur butterfly using it as a host plant, or rather sulphur caterpillar. I haven't wanted to unfurl the leaves and disturb the caterpillar, but this is a really nice host plant for the sulphur butterflies because it gets these big, juicy, fresh leaves. The end of each branch gets this beautiful cluster of new growth that's super tender and very easy for the caterpillars to eat. And it gets loaded with little flowers, little yellow flowers. Super easy to grow. Once you get it started from seed, it survives completely on its own with natural rainfall. The only thing I did with this was stake it to keep my husband from mowing it off. And keep an eye on it. So once you learn to identify some host plants, you should be able to get a lot of free host plants for your butterfly gardening. So Sicklepod is an annual, but it reseeds. If you let it drop its seeds, you'll get it year after year in the same area. So that's what I do. So I'll leave about half of the seed pods on this. And then next year I'll have seeds or plants from the seeds in the same area. So here's a couple more flowers. Sweet little yellow flowers. So this is about the mature height. It's about 3 feet. About 3 feet wide. So take a look around your green space and see if you can locate some of these. They transplant pretty well. Just be careful and try to get as much of the soil as you can with the root, because annuals don't generally like to be transplanted, and they don't survive it usually as well as a perennial plant will. But if you find volunteers, definitely try to move them. I've already moved a couple into some of my flower pots out front, and as long as you're really gentle with them, they can usually survive the transplant. So give Sicklepod a try. The butterflies will appreciate it. Enjoy your green space. Enjoy your Florida butterfly gardening. See you soon.